You are listening to the On Purpose Podcast, your guide to living a more purposeful life. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of the On Purpose Podcast, where as always, it's our pleasure to show up here with you, to listen to you, to learn with you, to coach, to teach, all the things that come with being part of a community. And most importantly, it's our pleasure to get to serve you and try to bring you what it is you need to live your best days and to live a life that's full of purpose and understanding and mattering. It doesn't mean we're always perfect. It doesn't mean we won't have downfalls and we're not works in progress. It just means that we're disciplined enough to see the good in what's going on around us. We're trained enough to catch ourselves when we're in our lows, to regroup, to feel while we're there, not to deny it, but also not to allow ourselves to stay there forever. To realize that at the end of every thunderstorm is usually a rainbow, right? And our job is to get to those rainbows. So I want to thank you for being here. And this week I'm excited to dive back into the world of trail running a little bit. That's been kind of a big focus of mine. It's just something I enjoy. There's something about just really challenging yourself to move your body far distances and to see what you're made of and to get that time where you get to really think and clear your mind and really address some problems or things that are going on in your head that otherwise kind of get buried through busyness or just life in general. When I'm out there running, when I'm out there kind of by myself, and I know I got a long ways to go and a long way to get back, it's really time to get clear in thinking. And this week I'm excited to bring on a man who knows what it means to fight for a second chance, Joe Hardin, the host of Beyond the Finish Line. Joe's journey isn't just about endurance sports. It's about overcoming addiction, reclaiming his life, and using running as a tool for his recovery. Now, over 5 years sober, he's sharing his story to inspire others to push past their limits, whether on the race course or in life. So I'm excited to bring him on and learn from him and to see what trail running's taught him, what it's helped him rediscovering himself, and ultimately to see what parallels you can find in his story to your own to find your best life and to find your finish line, if that's a good metaphor, to find where it is you're trying to head. So before we get into this episode, I want to make sure you get over, like, subscribe, share, help us reach our goal of being the most impactful podcast in the world. That means we're reaching people that maybe don't even know they need us, but we're going to reach them because you make a comment or a share or a subscribe. Just help us continue to grow. So thank you for all of you who have done that already. Thank you for those of you that are subscribed on Patreon for supporting the show. And thank you for being here. So sit back and enjoy this week's episode with Joe Hardin. Honor the Brave was founded by retired law enforcement officer Jeff Wolfgang and his wife Xana after Jeff was injured in the line of duty. It's their way of giving back to the first responder and military community through real estate. If you're a military or first responder, past or present, buying or selling a home, Honor the Brave connects you with trusted realtors nationwide and gives back through their Brave benefits. You receive an amount equivalent to 10% of your agent's commission as a thank you. An additional 5% goes to a charity you choose impacting first responders or military families, and you'll receive a handmade wooden flag honoring your service. Visit honorthebrave.com. We've got your six. Joe, my newest friend, welcome to the On Purpose Podcast. How are you today?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm stoked to have this conversation with you.
I'm excited to cross paths with you, and I appreciate what you're doing out there. And it's always fun to interview somebody that's also working on interviewing people. It's fun to see how it works out.
Yeah, it's an interesting. It's like such a weird. It's like a wild process getting like good at talking to people. It's like something you do every day. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been like it forces me to be better at like active listening. I think that's really my what I've been learning a lot lately is just trying to like hone in on a couple little crafts with interviewing like that.
Mm. Yeah, no, active listening is a lost art in our society. We're in such a rush to respond and tell people our thoughts that we don't slow down enough to hear theirs. And that's probably one of my favorite things about podcasting is you can create the time and space to really listen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I realized before maybe wasn't very good at. So it's been a learning process, and it's been really fun so far.
What's been your favorite part of running? Because you're just a little over a year into your podcast now, right?
Yeah. I just really love hearing like people's stories. Like it's really funny when you ask them to be on your podcast and like, well, like my story's not that interesting. You're like, well, first of all, you're wrong. Like everybody has a story to share. And then when you get them on there, then they like start like when you start like peeling back the layers of like the onion of the conversation, then you hear all these like really cool and interesting things. It's like, wow, like that's just been my favorite thing. And something that I've learned is I feel like each interview I learn like a little bit of something from everybody.
Mm.
So it's like I feel like every episode I've done, I carry one little nugget from every episode I've done. And like the ongoing like friendships that I've had with most of my guests, it's been really fun. Like you're growing like this great network of people, and I just love hearing people's stories.
Yeah. And I think there's something powerful in helping people understand the value in their own story. Because, like you said, so many people think their story isn't relevant because they're not a celebrity or they're not this status or that status. And everybody's story has weight. We just got to be able to share them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's how I felt ever before I even shared my first story. Like nobody wants to hear this. And that's been such a huge help in like where I'm at now with being able to share my own story. It's just been really cool to like kind of be on the other side of the table, so to speak, and reciprocate that for other people.
Yeah, I love it. All right, Joe, before we get into your story, I got to warm you up. Like, we
Yeah,
can't just jump in and head out for like a 200 miler today. We got to warm up, buddy. You ready to get warmed up?
yeah, I'm ready.
All right, here we go, Joe. What's the best one word description of your life? One word.
Funny, that's a similar question. I think it still holds true today. Is gratitude. Like that's huge for me. That word is at the helm of about every decision that I make is just being grateful. We get to do these things we're doing.
Yeah. No, I like that. And we get to, right? We don't have to do most of what we do. We get to. It's an active choice we make.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so yeah, gratitude. I've been trying to keep that word like forward, like this is why. Like I'm just really grateful to get to be able to, run miles or talk with, great people like yourself. It's been so I'd say that's my keyword lately.
I love it. All right. What's a favorite quote that you live by?
Well, I'm probably gonna butcher this, but Henry David Thoreau. Oh, dang it. You're gonna get me on this one. Oh, help me out here. It's something to the effect that we're all quietly living like how does that work? How does that go? We're all quietly living lives of desperation. So to me, I
Mm.
always just kind of think about that and try to live like each day with like a sense of purpose, and try to live it to like the fullest. And I know I butchered that quote, but it always kind of hits home whenever I hear it. I've heard Rich Roll say that
Yeah.
quote a few times. It's always kind of got me. So,
That's a good one. All right. If you had a theme song to your life, Joe, what's your theme song?
whew, um, lately it's for those about to rock. Whenever when I get fired up, that's kind of my ACDC. That's been like my theme song.
What are you getting fired up for? What are you turning that song on for? What kind of activities?
Usually, like, that's like a good starting line song. Like I
Mm.
don't really like get heavy into listening to music while I'm like racing, but that's like a pre-race like get fired up song.
Okay, I love it. What's a favorite book of yours or a current book you're reading? Either one.
I love Into the Wild. Um, the movie is great, but that book is just phenomenal.
Ah, such a good one. My wife and I just finished reading that together this past winter, and then we've watched a movie. And one of our favorite things is we've been to a lot of the same places he was traveling.
Oh, cool. And what a great movie soundtrack too. My
Oh,
goodness. That's one
Eddie
of my favorite
Vedder.
one of my favorite albums. Yeah,
Oh, dude,
so
see,
good.
see now if you're flipping that script on me, and my song right now has been the other day I did a long run to Society just on repeat from that soundtrack.
Oh yeah, Society's so good.
S-
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
This. What a great album.
Oh, unbelievable. And yeah, and it's so funny because I'd watched it originally so long ago, I totally forgot about the soundtrack until we rewatched it.
Yeah, it's just like fine piece of work all around.
Yeah. All right. You get to have dinner with one person, Joe. They could still be with us or have passed on. Who would you have dinner with and what would you want to ask them?
Oh dang, that is a fine question. Well, wow, this is a tough one. I think it'd be kind of cool to I like to talk about Henry David Thoreau. I think it'd be kind of cool to like get his take on kind of I just ask him like, hey, what do you think about kind of like what's going on with society? And like I think it'd be kind of cool to get his take on kind of modern times.
Ooh.
I don't know, that'd be probably a lot of questions. So maybe not one question, but
What do you think? What would you guess he would say? Any ideas?
I don't know. I mean, he was pretty insightful, so maybe he wouldn't be terribly disappointed, but at least he has some good pointers like he'd certainly probably get a lot more people fired up to get outdoors, that's for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, well, you're doing a good job getting people wanting to be outdoors as well. That's a big part of your life.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So, Joe,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
you feeling warmed up, my friend?
Yeah, yeah. I'm
You ready
feeling
to
warmed
go?
up.
Now you're ready to get some miles and we're ready to go. The knees are loose, the feet are feeling good. Hey, so I want to start off, Joe, by talking about something that one, I applaud you for sharing. And two, I kind of wanted to backdrop, and that is your decision to get sober over 5 years ago now. What kind of led you to that, and what's it been like for you in that journey?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I guess I'll share my date. It's my date I call it the date of my rebirth. So December 1st here, the 2019, I took my last drink and I gave up multiple vices. I also struggled like all my life with not just alcohol, but drugs, pharmaceuticals and some other stuff like that. And I did that. I struggled with those issues for most of my life up until, oh, well, now, yeah, 5 years ago. And it was, I knew that day I was it. Kept continuing to find like a new low. And it, like, and I always told myself, well, it can't get any worse than this. And I would always find some kind of way to find like a new rock bottom. And I knew, it's like cliche to say that you have like a moment of clarity because that's like you hear a lot of people say that. And I always thought that was like such a silly like idea. And then until I had my own like moment of clarity, like that day, it was very clear to me that I had run out of rock bottoms. And if I kept going the way I was going to go, I wasn't going to be around much longer for my kids and my spouse. And it was just like a clear sign. It wasn't like a physical sign. It was just like this overwhelming feeling that this is it, man. You got to change. This isn't like I just knew I couldn't live my life like that anymore. So I made my decision that day to take my last drink, do my last drug, and it has been incredible. I mean, it's just such a miracle. Honestly, it doesn't even seem some days it doesn't even seem like I'm living the same. It just doesn't even seem real. It's been so good, and it's just been such a wild ride. You know, what a what an absolute miracle it is to wake up sober every day. And there was a time, I would I would live day to day. Like I wasn't sure I can be able to make it a day sober or an hour sober. So to now hear you say 5 years, hearing someone else say 5 years is um, is just incredible. I never thought I'd ever get a week, much
Yeah.
less 5 years, and it's just been such. That's why gratitude's so big, man. I'm just so grateful to be able to wake up sober every day. It's a miracle every day.
What's been the biggest thing you learned about yourself in that journey, Joe?
Goodness. Um, well, I was in addiction. I was weak. I was a coward. Um, and the biggest thing I've learned is, and this is something I want to tell other people that might be on the fence about getting sober or in the early sobriety, is you're worth it. And I realized over the years of being sobriety that I'm worth this. We all deserve to be able to um, get and stay sober and live live a life that we deserve. And I guess that's been my biggest takeaway is like I deserve um, and to be sober, to be able to achieve great things. And I guess that's just kind of my advice to other people is it may not feel like it, but you're certainly worthy of it.
Yeah, that's such a powerful message. Now, were you a runner earlier in your life, or did you pick up running during this transition period?
Yeah, I was about a year sober. Well, actually, it was on my sobriety birthday. So December 1st, we go out for my sobriety birthday. We do that most years. Uh, and we were sitting down to, like a nice meal. And a couple of doors down from the restaurant we were at was the gym my wife goes to. And, I guess this is something I shared a few times, but I was also 110 pounds heavier than I am now at one point. And just getting sober, I lost, I lost a significant amount of weight just getting sober. And we're sitting down for a meal, and my wife's like, you're starting to lose weight, you're starting to look better. I'm sure you're feeling better, but we should get you a gym membership for your first year sobriety birthday. I was like, yeah, like that's great. So we, pop into this gym down the couple buildings down, and I got a gym membership, and I still go there weekly. I'll be there later today. It's an Anytime Fitness down the road. They've become like a family to me. Like the owner of that gym is actually like a business partner of mine in a race directing venture we've got, and that's where it began. I just went in there that following morning and got on a treadmill, and I walked for 30 minutes.
Mm.
And I just remember just that first walk, how great that felt, like to be able to move my body in a meaningful way, because that's something I never experienced before when I was using. And that 30-minute walk turned into, um, you know, a 15-second jog, a quarter mile run. And then I remember um, after a while, I ran like a full mile. And I just could not believe that I was capable of such a thing, like it's just so powerful. And I think within a couple of days of that, me and my wife came up with the idea of running our first 5K together. And it's just been, it's off to the races, I guess, pun intended, ever since then.
And what's been the biggest thing that running's taught you about yourself?
Well, like, of course, like, the cliche thing, like, I'm capable of hard things and all that, but it's taught me, it's certainly taken away my fear of like taking on big things. And that doesn't just translate to like running distance. That translates to like everyday life. Like, the decisions I used to shy away from because I was too afraid, or I didn't want to take any chances or any risks. Um, those don't seem to bother you much anymore after you've taken half marathon, ultra marathon. So I think my biggest takeaway lately is running has taught me to take chances on myself and be able to, kind of take a leap and not be so afraid. Like I think that's been my biggest lesson lately. Is just kind of bet on yourself, take risk, take the big swings, um, and that's kind of been lately what running's been teaching me.
I love it. And you're right. If you don't bet on yourself, nobody else can bet on you, right? If you don't put yourself in the game, nobody
That's
else
right.
can be there with you. And
That's right.
yeah, I love your analogy about kind of being a coward when you weren't sober, because I hadn't really heard that before, but it makes sense, right? Like you're there because you're not facing a lot of the stuff you know you should face.
Yeah, I think when I was using, I was like maybe even like afraid of success in a certain way. Like I was almost self-sabotaging myself because I always thought, if there was always a chance of me failing, and I was always so afraid of failure. And it's funny now looking back, failure doesn't scare me whatsoever. Um, in fact, when I do fail, I actually learn my best lessons through failure. May sound crazy to say, but I mean, you take big jumps, sometimes it doesn't always stick. And I think that's really where the work kind of begins for me sometimes. You don't always achieve what you want, but there's always like a really good silver lining in there somewhere. And I think I was always afraid of that before in like an active addiction.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely right. I think you're 100% right. I think for most all of us, our greatest lessons of life in life happen when we fail at something.
That's right.
But you can't even fail if you don't start.
That's right. Yeah, if you never show up, if you never toe the line, I mean, you're never going to achieve it. You're never going to achieve it either. Um, but yeah, that's been my big lessons lately. I've taken some big chances lately and fell short, but I learned from each one of those.
Yeah. Didn't you enter didn't you enter a pretty long ultra here recently that I see come across social?
Yeah, yeah. I'm 0 for 2 now, but I tried it again at 100-mile distance.
Okay.
But I tell you, like I've been pulling some good. It's a big swing, I'm still pretty relatively new into ultra running, but yeah, I'm telling you, those failures have taught me a lot about myself, though.
So talk me through that last
It's
one. So which race? So you were doing 100 miler. Which race was that?
The last one was Mohican 100.
Okay.
It was it was tough. I trained, but what a tough trail. I Yeah, it was a tough one.
So what was your lesson there, right? Because that's a big swing to just jump out and be like, I'm going to go on a 100-mile run. Because now you're not only for those our non-trail running community, like not only are you running a great distance, but you got to maintain your nutrition, your food implement. You're ideally not going to have to worry about sleep because ideally I think the goal is to get it done in less than 1 day. But some people are
Yeah.
going to be over. So you got your fatigue factor way up there. So what did you learn from that process?
From this one, unfortunately, it was just I guess kind of got taken out by like a some kind of I basically had some like random knee flare up, which I never had before.
Mm.
But I think if anything this time, yeah, I don't know what happened. It was just like the Mohican forest is like 14,000 feet of vertical over 100 miles, which isn't like that's pretty rough, especially for like the Midwest. But just covered in rocks too. But I think if anything I learned, I'm just going to train a little bit different this time. I think my training volume was there, but maybe I didn't implement enough strength training.
Mm.
So I'm going to try and add a little bit more like one leg stuff, like what they call it, like plyometrics.
Yep.
So I might kind of go back to the drawing board on training like that, like maybe even becoming like more specific on training. So that was kind of my take. I felt like mentally, I was there that day. My first 100-mile attempt, I kind of got my own head about 100K. So I kind of learned I need to uh, kind of sharpen my mental toughness a little bit. But this time, felt great upstairs. Just an unfortunate thing with my knee, but that's all right. It's like, well, I've identified a problem. I'm just going to retrain, regroup, and I'm going to try it again just as soon as I can find one. Maybe this fall, I'm going to keep going until I get a buckle.
Did you enjoy the process though? Do you enjoy the process of training?
Oh, oh yes, that's what I've learned about myself over the last few years. Is I kind of when I first got into ultra running, I was like really into data, but lately I've shifted more towards like running with my heart because I think I'm really starting to fall more in love with the process than I ever had before. Plus, I just love being on trail. Um, so yeah, certainly. I think I always need like a carrot to kind of dangle in front of me
Mm.
too. I mean, I don't have anything on the books right now, but other than like I said, I love being on the trail. But yeah, I think training is my favorite thing. the to me, like the race day is like your victory lap. It's kind of like it's a celebration of like all this work you've done leading up to it.
And I think that's such a key parallel for life, right? Is like to enjoy the process of whatever it is we're doing, not just focused on getting to an end result.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you don't enjoy the journey for ultra running or like a lot of things in life, you're just never gonna have any fun. Like, you know, I don't think you'd really be able to appreciate it to either, So I think that's maybe a big lesson for not just running, but in life in general. Just enjoy the journey, man. Just to, you know, and like, learn some lessons along the way, kind of
Mm.
take in the scenery, if you will. So yeah, that's been yeah, enjoying the process is key. You gotta have you have to have that dialed in. If you don't love what you're doing for ultra running and training, it'll just be a slog, and nobody wants that.
You hit on something I wanted to ask about there, and that is the community of ultra running, the trail running community. And that's one of the probably the first thing that attracted me to this even as a sport is just the openness of the community, the accepting of the community, and the fact that everybody's out there for their own reasons, yet they're all very similar. What have you found in that community?
Goodness. Yeah, this is what keeps me coming back. I went into ultra running to get, a medal and a buckle and like get a like a mileage goal or whatever. But the community is what's keeping me return. That's what's got me returning back to the sport. It's huge, and I'm sure it's like no secret that there's a lot of people in ultra running that share a similar story of mine. There's like a lot of sobriety stories. There's people that come over, overcame incredible things like, mental health journeys, eating disorder journeys. And, I remember like the first few times I did longer distance stuff, I would like share my story with people. When you're running for hours with people, you'll talk at length about a lot of personal things with people that were strangers to you at one point on the trail. And I remember sharing like some of my story and learning that I wasn't alone. And I'm like, oh wow, like so the community's been huge. I kind of joke it's like I feel like the trail running community is kind of given a home. Like I'm like a misfit toy, and it's like giving me a home. But there's like a bunch of us out there sharing these crazy ass stories and running trails, and so that's become like a huge catalyst and why I keep showing up to these things. It's not just to cover the distance. I mean, pick a nominal number; it could be any distance, but yeah, the people you share trail with are what really drives this sport, and it's what makes it so amazing too.
Mm. Do you have a particular moment, a story that you could share with us when you realize like that just like you said, I'm out here in the middle of nowhere sweating, worried about all this stuff, and I'm sharing real life with this person next to me. Do you have a story that comes to mind on that?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because I was just talking about this. So my first 100K, I kept like leapfrogging with this guy, and and he like stubbed his toe or something, and that's what made me. I like passed him, and he stubbed his toe really hard on a rock, and I heard it. So I actually stopped and went back down. We were up on like kind of like a climb. I like went back down the climb to check on him, and I ended up running with this guy for probably like 20 or so miles, and I was like really in the well. I wasn't doing very well anyways, and so for 20 miles, this guy in front, what's funny is I didn't even see his face till the next morning. So I have no idea what he looks like, but it's funny that me and this guy just like in depth for 20 miles. I mean, I told him stuff I never told anybody. And I feel like he told me stuff he never told anybody. It's just like so incredible. Like we helped each other get through that like last 20 miles. I mean, now I know him. I met him in the daytime, and I actually still talk to this guy. But yeah, it was just cool. He was just telling me his sobriety story and weight loss story, and I just kind of ran in silence and let him tell the story. And I was just like really moved by the fact that he trusted me enough to tell me that story. And it was just like so wild that like to like have that situation happen in the middle of the night. You're just like sharing your most intimate details with some random person in the middle of the night in the Mohican or in the Morgan Monroe Forest, you know. So I just always remember that story and how wild that was, and we're still friends to this day.
What did that do for you, Joe, to realize that there is a place where you can just go be you authentically without any mask or hiding your past? What did that do for you, like self-confidence wise, and just your continued battle through sobriety?
Um, you know, it made me feel really good that I wasn't alone in my story. You know, you sobriety can feel really lonely. And it was just kind of relieving to know that I wasn't alone in this and that I think I'd finally found my people too. Because I never had that before in my life. I it's like I always kind of felt like every time I try to like fit in with like a group of people before this, I always kind of felt like I was like a tourist. Like I wasn't quite good enough to be with this group, or like, you know, maybe didn't quite fit in with people. Like I said, I'm like, you know, I've got a sobriety journey. I'm like this awkward dude that never fits in anywhere. And trail running has like given me like a place. Like I feel like I belong. It's like, oh, this is the people I've been looking for like my entire life. Because there's a bunch of people just like me running these crazy distances and like running through the woods and eating, you know, pieces of pizza at 2 a.m. in the Albion Forest somewhere. So it gave me like a home. Like I said, it gave me like a place where I felt like I finally belonged.
And then how's your fitness journey been since? Like obviously you're continued on it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm still I'm still pretty heavy into run. I've been really honing in on weightlifting a lot because you know I'm also maybe older trail runner, I guess. So I've been trying to hone in on strength and like longevity. It hasn't always been linear. Something I guess that I would share is I've kind of struggled with, you know, weight has been a off and on problem for me, along with other addictions. Eating is one of those things. And unfortunately, you can't quit eating, right? You have to keep eating or you die. So, navigating that, my relationship with food is kind of always going to be ongoing. And I've just been, like I said, I've been trying to not really work on getting faster, but I want to be able to do this for as absolutely long as I can, even if I'm in the back of the pack, which that doesn't matter. I mean, that's where all the fun is. Anyway, that's where you meet all the cool people is in the back of the pack, anyways.
And well, I haven't done a race yet. But I've heard that from multiple people that the back of the pack is where the fun takes party, where the party is.
Yeah, that's where the party taste, man. That's where it's at.
Well, you can actually learn and understand people and get to know them a little bit. It's funny because you tune into a race or you start watching live feeds and you're drawn to the elites up front and like, oh my gosh, they are so fast. But then like the stories, like you said, the personal stories are so great at the back of the pack. The person that's doing this for a spouse that passed away or a parent or a child, whatever. And you're like, man, that's why we come to this stuff.
That is right. Like some of the yeah, like you said, I've had the opportunity a couple times to watch uh to be at like a start finish line, and watching the elites like blaze through is like incredible. But also being able to like double back and go to like the golden hour at a race will move you to tears. That's like it's just so raw back there. So I really actually kind of like being. I mean, would I like to be faster? Would I like to be Jim Walmsley? Sure, whatever. But man, being back there, that's like there's good stuff happening in the back in that backpack.
And I think honestly, Joe, that's where most of us will be in our lives. Like very few of us are going to be the elite, but we can all be there with somebody else that just showed up.
Right, that's right.
So let me kind of tie this in for you, Joe. Like you talked about hitting the well or being deep in the well and the exhaustion and stuff. When you find that in a race or a challenge you put yourself through, how do you correlate that into what you're facing in real life as well? How does that translate for you to day-to-day life?
I was thinking about this lately because I've had some adversity like we all do, and I was thinking about this. It's funny that you asked that. But when you think like when you're in like the pain cave or whatever you want to call it during a race, and you just like you you think to yourself, I could not feel any worse. Like there's no way I'm going to get through this feeling. And you keep moving and keep showing up and keep pushing, and you pop out of that feeling. And when you do, you can't believe you felt as bad as you did. And I've been thinking about how that it's the same with like everyday life, right? Like you feel like you're up against it. It's never going to get any better. This is like a sobriety note, if anything, because you feel like you'll never get out of this. You're never going to be able to get through it, and then you just keep pushing, keep showing up for yourself, one foot in front of the other. It may not always be. It might be two steps forward, one step back, but I promise you're going to get through it. You'll be on the other side, and you'll be so glad you kept pushing and persevering. And I think that's been my takeaway from like moments like that. Like you said, when you're in the well, like the pain cave, what do you want to call it? You're gonna get through it. And I think that like translates perfectly to like everyday life and like the struggles, like adversities we all kind of go through. Is you're gonna get through it. On the other side, it's gonna work out.
Yeah, I think I love that, John. I would just ask, what do you think about this? Like, you're going to get through it if you keep moving. But
Yeah, just keep moving.
if you stop, you're stuck right there.
Yep. Yeah, if you stop, you're stuck. You're not gonna go anywhere. You just gotta keep slogging, keep pushing.
Hmm. And like you said at the very beginning, like for doing this research and looking into you a little bit to bring you on a show, I saw that you were over 5 years sober. And then like you kind of forget because you're battling day to day. So you sometimes don't have the same perspective as somebody from the outside. And I think that's kind of if we take that same vision with our own struggles in life, like when we're in the battle, it seems like so monumental. But if we stop for a minute and look back and go, wait, I've come this far. I can go further. I can do more now. Like this isn't the biggest thing I've faced.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. It is. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I haven't like taken inventory of that lately, but I still have to remind myself that like, man, I've been through all this stuff. Like I can do this. Like take on a career goal, or I can sign up for another 100 miler. It may seem like impossible, but when you think about everything and like from like a perspective, going through all that, like showing up to a 100 miler is not that big of a deal when you've been through something like sobriety or whatever
Mm.
other struggle you can name, I guess. But yeah, absolutely.
For sure. And that's one of the hacks in life, right? That's one of the tricks is to have your past successes on recall, to have the things that have challenged you and you've survived right here so that when I am faced with doubt, when I am faced with fear, when I'm not sure I can take another step forward or not another day in this life, I go, wait a second, right here. Boom, I did this in the past. This was way harder, right? And sometimes we're short to celebrate our past successes or use our past successes to propel us to more success. And it's a habit, right? But
Yeah, yeah,
we got to practice it because we're so conditioned to look for what we're doing poorly. We're so conditioned to look for the negative. Oh, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. I'm too slow. I'm doing that, whatever. So it's a habit we got to reframe and retrain ourselves to look for the good in ourselves as well.
yeah. It's so tough to do though, because I mean I'm guilty of the same thing. Like for instance, like a DNF. We touched on DNFs. I was like bummed. I was like, well, I only made it this far, or I only did this or whatever. And I was thinking about something that someone said to me on one of my podcasts about DNFs. Um, you know, and it was, I may have dropped out at mile 45 or like 67, or maybe I missed a mark somewhere else. But I was thinking about like gratitude's my big word, obviously, right? But it's like, how cool was it that you were even able to like show up to this thing?
Mm.
And that's something I didn't think about till after. It's like, well, I need to celebrate the fact that I even showed up to the start line. I mean, past me would have never showed up for something like that, or showed up for myself in any fashion at all. So yeah, absolutely to your point. Yeah, you kind of have to like I mean, maybe I didn't hit the mark that I wanted, but it's okay to like celebrate how far you came, regardless of if maybe you hit this like pick like an arbitrary goal, but or like a number. But yeah, that's something we need all maybe I need to do better at. But yeah, I learn to kind of celebrate those like little successes. Or 45 miles isn't a little success, but by any
That's a heck
means.
of a
But
success. Yeah, and right, I heard an interesting quote, and I think it's in the book I'm reading right now, but it said a DNF is always better than a DNS, right? So for those trail running audience is not our audience is not trail runners. DNF means did not finish. That means you entered a race and you didn't finish it. So you ran a 100-mile race and you dropped out or didn't make a time cut somewhere along the way. A DNF did not finish always beats a DNS, which is did not even start, right? Because you didn't even show up. The did not starters didn't even show up and give it an effort.
yeah, absolutely. And I guess people just need to take that in mind, like maybe you didn't get what you wanted, but you showed up. And it could be anything. It could be anything other than a trail run, but obviously that's the common thread today. But
Yeah, and it's just life, right? Like think about this, Joe. Like I want to run this 100-miler, or I want to get this promotion at work. I want this thing, and I don't get it. Well, you know what? Maybe you weren't supposed to get it, and maybe your true lesson is in not getting it because there's something greater for you
oh
to
yeah,
achieve now
absolutely.
that you didn't get it. Because now you got that fire to go run another 100, and maybe you're going to train differently, and maybe you're going to move your body. And that's what actually the lesson was. The lesson was never reaching the finish line. The lesson was the growth along the way.
Oh yeah, yeah, I love that. That's kind of what I said. Someone was asking me, but I was like, well, I'm gonna retrain for this. I'm retrain and show up again because maybe I'm not done learning. Like, you didn't get, like you said, your promotion. You didn't get, whatever your goal may be, because maybe that means you still have something to learn. So, yeah, absolutely.
And that's the good thing about life, right? Is we're always in process. We're always making progress if we show up, we get on the line, and we go.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, Joe, I want to switch. Talk to me about when you decided to start a podcast, because your podcast goes into more heavily into trail running and the athletes and the stories
Yeah.
there. What made you decide to start that, and what was that like?
Yeah. Well, let's see, like a couple of years ago, I kind of started sharing my running journey on Instagram. And I was just kind of scrolling through Instagram and I saw Run Try Bike's Instagram page, Jason Bahumandi,
Yeah,
Lori and Gandhi. And I always kind of butcher this, but they had like a post, I'm paraphrasing it. It said something like there's a place at the starting line for everybody and everybody. And I was just like, oh, I love that. And I was like, hey, I'm everybody. And I messaged the page and I got like a response pretty quickly. And they're like, hey, how would you like to come on and, do like a half an hour interview with us and share your story, your running journey? Because at the time I was still, I'm still new, but to trail running. And I was like, yeah, sure. So, a couple of days later, I have an interview with Gandhi, who I'm great friends with now. Um, Shout out to And he's like, man, this story is great. We want to publish it in our newsletter. And I was like, wow, that's cool. I always thought it was so wild that anybody wanted to hear what I had to say or like wanted to share my story. And then they came back a few days later and Ohm's just like, hey, how would you like to be the cover athlete for the January issue of our newsletter? I'm just like, wow, like I was just blown away by this. And then I think maybe I had shared with him that I write because I got a blog. I have like a blog page. I do some like journaling about my sobriety story and kind of like I talk a lot about woodworking in this blog, non-running related stuff. Sometimes I talk about things that aren't running related, believe it. But and Ohm and Jason invited me to write for the website, and I was like, "Well, this is awesome!" So I really started to like be very like open and kind of vulnerable with my like running journey, my weight loss stuff, sobriety, and I actually got some like pretty positive responses back from a few people that they read like an article, like a piece that I wrote, and it resonated with them. And I wrote for them for a few months, and then I got this email from Jason. He's like, "Hey, how would you like?" We had this a concept. We like to start a network of everyday people, like everyday athletes, and we're going to share the story of the everyday athlete. how would you like to be a podcast host? And it was like, wow, like first of all, it's terrifying. To be to talk, I was just scared. I was honestly scared to death. And I was like, I'm like going back to what I said earlier, when we were talking. I was like, I'm gonna bet on myself. I'm gonna take a big risk. I'm gonna take on something that totally out of my comfort zone, because that's what life and ultra running is. Like you're putting yourself on a crazy situation sometimes that you wouldn't normally be comfortable with, and that's where the growth happens. That's where like the good stuff. That's the secret sauce to growth. And it's like, I'm gonna do something wild here. I'm gonna say yes to this. So that was, a year ago, and that's how I got into podcasting. It's wild. Like I said, it's such a weird thing to call yourself like a podcast host, considering how like terrified I would have been before podcasting to like do like a public speaking or like an interview like this. This is something I would never have been able to do a couple of years ago. And it has been just like such an amazing journey. The friendships I've made, with Jason and Ohm and Lori and the great people of the Run Try Bike community, has just, like I said, it's like I felt like it once again. I had like another home. Like there's a bunch of people, like me out there, and I get to share incredible stories, of everyday people. Just they're doing this sport for one thing and one thing only. It's because they love it. There's no sponsor. I mean, I've had elite athletes on my podcast. They're just as special too. You have to love it to be an elite athlete. But I love the other like 99% of the people. Like we're on the 99%. Like we're going to like a 9 to 5, and we're signing up for crazy stuff like Cocodona 250, or um, like a local 5K. I love those like everyday stories. They're towing a start line 100% because they just absolutely passionately love running. And that's just my favorite thing.
Do you have a particular guest or story that stood out to you from your podcast? Because you're a little over a year into it now. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, goodness. I've had the opportunity to talk to some just like amazing people. Um, I keep thinking back. So I had my friend Doug Finglas on, who has an amazing, amazing sobriety journey. We actually ran, recently. We've been friends off and on for years, not off and on. We've been friends for years, kind of virtually on the internet. And I actually met him in Rhode Island, and we ran most of the way across Rhode Island together. And I had him on my podcast after that. His story just really resonated. Um, I always think back to my episode with Jennifer Goins, who ran Cocodona 250, and just an everyday athlete. And her story just like captured me. I've had so many. I guess I don't want to hone in on one person because I've
Yeah.
been able to share dozens of incredible stories. But but yeah, just phenomenal. Like just phenomenal. Every single interview I've done, like I said, I've carried some sort of piece of it with me to this day.
What would you say is the biggest lesson you learned from one of your episodes?
Oh, that like I said, the biggest lesson that I've learned is take a big risk. Like I guess it's my biggest thing is and just like showing up for yourself is huge, right? I know I'll repeat that mantra a lot because that's like I think that's what I've learned. It is keep showing up and just keep showing up for yourself. I think that's my biggest thing. And something that's always stuck with me, and I can't remember who said this, is, and this isn't just for running, this is a life thing too, is forward as a pace. And I know we've kind of touched on
Mm.
that before, but just keep moving forward. It doesn't have to be a blistering speed. You don't have to be like crushing it, but as long as you're moving forward as a pace. I use that for not just running, but for life. I don't know who said that quote, but thank you, whoever said that on my show. And I've been carrying that with me ever since.
No, it's 100% true, right? Forward is momentum, and momentum builds more momentum. And all of that's better than being at a standstill.
That is right.
So, Joe, if you could leave our listeners with one powerful takeaway about resilience today, about being resilient in their life, what would you share with them?
I guess, don't be afraid to take chances. And even when you're kind of up against it, you just gotta, like I said, I guess I'm gonna keep on this keep moving forward thing. Um, yeah, you just got to keep at it. You're gonna have setbacks. Like I said, it's never none of this is linear. So when you're down, you just got to remember you're gonna pop out of this thing. You just got to keep trudging forward. You're gonna get through it all. I swear. I mean, that comes from me in early days. And it's like I couldn't feel any worse than this.
Mm.
Um, but you just got to keep pushing, keep moving.
I love it. Joe, where can our audience follow you, connect with your podcast, and be part of the journey and the movement you're creating in life?
Yeah, Instagram's kind of where I'm most active. It's at Trail Tortoise Running on Instagram. And my podcast is called Beyond the Finish Line. It's with the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. You can find that on IG too. A lot of my stuff is on the Run Try Bike IG page. And we also, me and Jason Bahumandi actually host a music podcast called What's in Your Earbuds. That one we're just like having a ton of fun with this. One of my ongoing things is every time I see someone running or like biking, I'm like, what are they listening to? So yeah, that podcast is kind of like a spin-off of that. Like, what do you got in your earbuds while you're training or running? Like, so we unpack like a lot of cool things. Like I ask a bunch of really random music questions on that one, and we're just having a blast with that show.
Nice. Joe, I want to thank you for coming on the show, taking time from your day to share your story with us. And more importantly, I want to thank you for finding the courage to share your story and to have your voice and to realize that the strength in your story provides strength for others. I want to thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share it. Like I said, I love sharing my story. I'm always kind of hope that it resonates with somebody. That's my goal is just keep being transparent and sharing it. Hopefully maybe it lands on somebody and they'll take the step, you know, themselves.
I love it. Thank you so much, Joe.
And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.